Good evening, everybody. This is Naomi Smith, and I would like to welcome you to tonight's webinar, which is all about the superhero's journey to personal power and love. So, firstly, thanks for taking some time out and investing in your own future and the life that you're choosing to create by showing up here tonight. And I commend you for placing your own personal development as a priority tonight, because you form part of 3% of the population who actually do, take an interest in this work and actually commit time and energy and invest in themselves. So congratulations, first of all, of being, part of that 3% who are actually showing up and stepping up to be able to be in this space tonight. So welcome. Tonight we're going to be talking about some success theories, and success is all about supporting strong, driven and amazing people to be able to step through the inevitable challenges that turn up in our lives, to be able to move forward and bring in more of what's most important into our lives. So that might be in business, it might be in general life terms, or it might be within relationships. But these concepts that we're going to talk about tonight are absolutely applicable across every area of your life. So the actual concepts are very generic. It's just the application which will vary in terms of where you're going to apply it within your life. Now, tonight's objective is to help you to be able to see how every piece of challenge that we have within our life is actually serving us, and how we can use our challenges to be able to come through stronger and more powerful and more focused than ever before, to be able to step into creating by deliberate creation. Because the truth is that, within our world that we live in, we have a dichotomy where there is an abundance of amazing opportunities that are out there. There is more than enough money, there is more than enough love, there is more than enough well-being, there is more than enough of everything that we desire waiting for us to actually step up and claim it. But conversely, there's also, more than enough scary stuff and challenging things and difficulties and, things that are going to really throw us off our course. So, we have two paths, and my objective tonight is to be able to give you some tools to be able to choose to put yourself on the path that's going to create more of what it is that you actually want to attract. So we're going to be talking tonight for around about an hour, hour and a half. I will be getting questions at the end, but not throughout the webinar. So, if you've got things that come up, feel free to use the chat button and put things into the webinar for me, and I'm very happy to address those at the end of the webinar. So tonight, we're going to talk about successful people, and we're going to study the psychology of the most successful people, and use those as our role models, because the interesting part is that paradoxically, the most amazing, most successful and most awesome people are also the ones that actually do encounter the challenges. So we're going to be looking at that mindset. We're going to be talking about the top 3 traps that keep people stuck and block them from being able to push through resistance to be able to get to what it is that we want to create. I'm going to give you 2 strategies that will help you to build momentum very, very quickly. And there's a simple no-brainer method that all of my clients use, which is absolutely the single most powerful technique that I've ever seen in all of my years of personal development in terms of creating movement and momentum. So without any further ado, we will get started and get into some of this juicy, gorgeous, yummy content that I've been working on, because I'm very excited about sharing it with you tonight. So first of all, I really wanted to talk about what is the superhero's journey. Now, some of you, particularly some of you who I know in the group are experienced coaches and have had some coaching training or some exposure to personal development. And you might have heard of the hero's journey. And tonight we're actually supercharging the hero's journey. And what we're doing is taking the hero's journey and putting it on steroids and talking about what is the real process that, you know, high-performing people go through when we experience challenges within our life. So, and you know, this is a model of human behavior, and this is the stuff that I see every day of the week while I'm coaching with my clients. And certainly it's the same model that that I saw when I was in the corporate workplace coaching. It applies to every part of our life. So, you know, I guess it starts off up the top. You know, our life is great, everything's going along cruisingly, and it's all good. And then we hit a speed bump. There's a challenge that comes from left field, and you know, nobody really knows what we're going through. So we put on this bright, smiley, happy face, and we act as though everything's fine. But behind that, we're actually, you know, feeling a little challenged. It's tough. Nobody else knows what's going on. We're keeping it all within. And that feels really, really hard at times. And over a long period of time of keep that within and not admit that it's wearing it down, it actually will bring us down. We'll start to feel, you know, feel sad and feel pretty lost, and, you know, potentially move into places that are, you know, moving towards depression or burnout. When we hit rock bottom, we start to lose the things that are most important to us. We often then start, because we start asking ourselves, what is this all about? What am I supposed to learn from this? So from our search, we would generally find a mentor or a teacher of some sort, somebody who's able to teach us the things that we just can't see on our own. It's by putting those lessons into practice the next stage comes up, which is actually really scary. And it's when we're actually stepping up and moving through that resistance. And, you know, through that resistance, we become better, not bitter. And, you know, that's our breakthrough point, is where we get to the point we say, I have become because of this challenge. Now, the sad part is that certainly most of my coaching clients that come to me have already gone most of the way around this circle on their own. And, you know, they've gone through this darkness, this feeling alone, feeling like nobody understands, feeling like they've lost so much more than what they ever wanted to lose. And, you know, and they've been in that darkness for so long that, you know, it feels really exhausting and tiring by the time they get to that stage where we start to get the answers. So, you know, it's all about being able to complete the journey and join the dots, and to be able to get to the point where it all makes sense and we can move on to be able to create a super experience because of who we've become along through that journey. So I thought I might share a little of my background. So some of you would know my background. Some of you I know I've already know quite well. But for those of you who haven't heard my story before, I'd like to share just a little about me and where I've come from, so that I guess what I'm going to share tonight might make a little more sense. So my background in terms of workplace career I started in the banking and finance sector around about 25 years ago. So I was a young typist and brought up within a fairly working class farming family in country Queensland. And my father had given me a very good work ethic. So I was brought up with a belief that, it was about going in and putting in 100% effort and doing a great job and always working hard while I was at work. But I really thought that I would end up being a typist or, having children or, getting married, and that would be my career. I was in the right place at the right time, and the days of affirmative action started in the early 90s, and I was selected to be part of a women's development program, which was all about advancing high potential women to be able to advance into more senior roles within the organisation. So as a result of that program, I was exposed to a lot of coaching, a lot of development, a lot of support and mentoring that actually helped me to build my confidence and helped me to see greater opportunities and to see what else was possible. So 5 years later, I went back and started mentoring other women within the organisation, within Westpac Bank. And, at that time, I'd achieved, I think, 2 or 3 promotions, and I'd climbed a few stages on the ladder. And I wanted to start sharing and inspiring and supporting other women along the journey to be able to share this amazing gift that I'd been given, which was all about understanding how to empower myself and how to step into those opportunities and how to move through my limited beliefs that I thought were possible. So that gave me a love of coaching. It gave me a love of mentoring. It gave me a love of supporting women and helping to see them become successful. And I went on then over, many years, the next 15 years or so, to keep in continuing my coaching and my personal development learning. I think I've spent close to $150,000 on my personal development education, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours, a lot of tears, a lot of cleaning, and a lot of soul-searching, and went on to, I guess achieve some fairly significant career success as a result of the work that I continued to do on myself. My last corporate role, I was the executive success coach for Commonwealth Bank, business banking. So I was in charge of performance coaching for business banking. So it was sales, service, customer excellence and productivity for 120 staff across Queensland. So my role was all about helping people to achieve what they needed to achieve within the workplace. Now, I loved that job. It was a great job. Gave me some really good opportunities. I was a judge on the Telstra Business Women's Awards. Very passionate about supporting women in business. Represented women in the financial sector in terms of industry support, and I had a pretty good life. I was had achieved the second highest position within my state in Queensland. And it was really, the top of the tree in terms of my career aspirations. At the time I was married, I had a beautiful daughter. We lived in a nice house in a nice suburb, had some beautiful friends, had, lovely overseas holidays and all sorts of stuff that was going on. And my surname prior to being Naomi Smith was actually Naomi Power. And some people in the industry used to call me Power Woman because I was this sort of supercharged chick that would go out and conquer the world. So I'd put on my Superwoman suit and I would, do this executive job, and I'd come home and, run the house and do all of those things. But truth was that I was actually getting quite exhausted. I was one woman leader in a team with 6 men. I was constantly a behaviour to conform with the norm, which was a very masculine environment. I wasn't rebalancing myself as a woman. I didn't understand my masculine and feminine energy. I didn't understand how I needed to top myself. I was giving a lot to be able to support those 120 staff in order for them to be the best. So I expected myself to always be performing at 120% in order to be able to get 100% out of the staff. So I drove myself pretty hard. I travelled a lot. So, you know, Cairns to Coffs Harbour is a fairly big area. And, you know, the truth was that I was getting pretty tired. I was pretty exhausted, and I was consumed with mother guilt from being away from my child. My marriage was ending because we literally had sort of, you know, very much neutralized, and had, you know, we're living together as good friends, but there was no romance or passion left in the marriage. I was getting very tired. I was getting very sad. I was crying a lot, and silent tears that nobody really saw and nobody knew was going on. I put on the mask to tell the world that I was okay, but I was actually falling apart. And I felt that as a leader and as a strong woman who needed to be there to support others, that I couldn't ask for help. And, you know, when you hold that in for too long, something's going to give. And, you know, I started to feel less than effective, shall I say, in terms of, you know, my ability to function. You know, I was getting really tired. My mental clarity wasn't there. I was feeling sad a lot. And, you know, I started to realize that I experienced my fourth career burnout. And, you know, once you've had 4 career burnouts from pushing yourself, from being driven and being all about smashing out amazing results, you start to realize that there needs to be a better way, some way that's sustainable and functioning to be able to help us to be able to, you know, have a great life at work, but also keep it together so that we can have a foundation that will support us to be resilient, powerful, strong, and effective in business and our life and within our personal relationships, because true success is never one-dimensional. We need to be able to have all of those, you know, coexisting and all supporting each other in order to actually feel happy, healthy, and abundant. So, you know, I started to once again, you know, learn to understand the signs of what had created this for me. And, you know, when I looked through some of the indicators in terms of, you know, what I was experiencing, I realized that I had adrenal fatigue. And adrenal fatigue comes from being so focused on success and so driven that we don't always look after ourselves, and we don't always, you know, I guess, employ the strategies that are going to be able to keep us happy and healthy. So, you know, some of these are, I've got 2 pages here of symptoms, but allow it, you can have a scroll over them on the screen. But, you know, certainly some of the ones that I was experiencing was, you know, craving foods that were high in fat and sugar and salt. Really, really needed those types of foods, and was also, but, you know, couldn't work out why I couldn't, sort of wasn't, you know, I had these cravings. That was something that was very big for me. I had to force myself to keep going. So, you know, at the end I was getting very, very tired. Sleep on the weekends, but still feels tired. There was no amount of sleep that could actually ever get me to feel energized again. I, you know, didn't think as clearly as I used to. Tended to not want to get too emotional. I would tend to hold off the emotional stuff and just try to, you know, stay disconnected. Some other ones that I guess I personally went through, insomnia, so waking up in the middle of the night and having that 2 or 3 a.m. Where the head's racing and just can't get back to sleep. Coffee, you know, absolutely, totally coffee addicted, needed lots and lots of caffeine. Relationship at home was certainly an unhappy one that started to eat into work. little control over how I spent my time. I certainly felt I was always running somewhere and always in demand, and that I never had enough time in the day to get everything that I wanted to get done. Exhausted by the weekend, torn between what I wanted to be doing, felt like I should be doing. And, you know, all of these things I was starting to feel. And, you know, these are the warning signs that we're actually heading for a burnout. And the truth is that, you know, by the time we get to burnout, it generates us. So, you know, for me, my crisis was that, you know, my world started to fall apart. So I had a marriage breakdown. I you know, felt like I didn't want to be in my job anymore. And I felt actually pretty, you know, pretty burned through the whole thing. So, you know, unfortunately, most of us, particularly those of us that are driven and high performers, will keep till such time as we get to that crisis point. So, you know, tonight, I guess my hope for who are listening tonight is to not actually get to crisis point, to take some action and make changes by choice, rather than waiting until that smack around the face and you really need to address what's hitting you. So, you know, if we think about, you know, successful people, and, you know, why is it that successful people are the ones that are suffering the most at the moment? And, you know, if we look at the statistics in terms of depression and stress and things like that that are going on, my God, it just astounds me, and it really, really, I get quite passionate about it, because I just think that, you know, stress, mental illness, and all of those types of conditions are so rampant in our communities. It affects so many people, yet we still feel like there's a stigma attached to being able to talk about what's going on and actually get the help that we need to be able to move through it faster. Because, you know, it's inevitable that most of us are going to have it at some point, but it's how long we stay in it and how quickly we move through it and how powerful we become as a result of it that actually is within our control. So, you know, there's been a 68% increase in the number of antidepressant prescriptions that have been written out in the last 10 years. So, you know, if you think back 10 years ago, it wasn't that long ago, but our culture over the last 10 years has become much more highly medicated. There's only 35% of people that actually seek medication. So if there's a 68% increase in the 35% of the population that are getting medication, imagine how many other people are out there that are suffering and going through more pain than they need to, because we just don't have enough leaders that are out there sharing this message and really supporting people to be able to understand their pain and become better through it. So, you know, one of my beautiful, amazing, gorgeous clients is 22 years old, and she is really suffering some heavy duty stress and, you know, perhaps and burnout and adrenal fatigue. So, you know, it's coming stages. The highest onset age group for people getting depression, 15. So our children are growing up with stress. They're learning it from us as parents, and, you know, we're creating these stressful environments through the way that we're thinking and the lifestyles that we're choosing, and our kids are growing up sick. So suicides, you know, currently we have 7 suicides a day in Australia. For every 1 suicide, there's 30 attempts. So, you know, 210 suicide attempts a day in Australia, and that just breaks my heart. But, you know, what breaks my heart even more is, you know, we get about people that have taken their life with suicide, because that's a horrendous thing for anybody to have to, you know, to go through, supporting somebody who's lost somebody through suicide. But what about the people who are living but squandering their life away because they're struggling with this pain? And, you know, that's the place that I really want to get to, is supporting people to be able to not have to lose the best parts of your life and the most amazing opportunities that are waiting for us by being stuck in this pain. So, you know, ultimately, you know, what I believe is that we're here on this earth to love. We're here to forgive, and most of all, we're here to learn. So, you know, all of these things that turn up are opportunities for us to return back to our natural state, which is love. It's about, you know, letting go of stuff, you know, getting rid of the blame and the judgment and the, you know, all of those sort of emotions that keep us stuck in that place, and to learn from it so that we can make different choices moving forward that can help us to become better, not bitter. So, you know, if we look at, I guess, this hero's journey once again, what I want to talk about is break points. So, you know, if we look about this cycle, so, you know, there's two significant break points that I see in this cycle that actually is where people drop out. And the pain intensifies the longer that you stay in those spots. So the quicker you can get there and keep moving along the cycle, the less pain you're going to experience. It's like ripping a Band-Aid off. If you take, you know, forever to rip that Band-Aid off, it's going to hurt a whole lot. Whereas you get quickly, you get through it a lot faster. So, you know, the two break points that I see where people get stuck along the cycle because they don't realize that they're part way around and they have to keep going. You know, the two break points are when we hit everything, you know, that point, which is where we often sit and we feel very, very stuck, and we sit in that place. The next logical step after that is to look for answers and to start searching for meaning. So we need to shift out of hitting rock bottom and feeling like we've lost everything into, you know, how do I find answers to this? From there, the next break point that I see people falling off, and the reason people fall off the cycle is just because there's resistance in terms of moving. So the other resistance point is where we've got the answers, we've found it, but it stays as intellectual knowledge. And essentially, you know, to know something but to not do it is to not know. So, you know, often we go and we read books or we go to courses or we learn information, but we don't apply it. Because there's still that resistance or that fear in terms of moving forward. So the two most painful spots are those two, you know, where those orange arrows are. And essentially it's just an indicator of we just have to keep moving through to get through that cycle and get to the next spot. One of the reasons why people get stuck on the first point, which is about, you know, the bit prior to looking for answers, is that we're searching in our brain in areas that the answers don't belong. So, you know, we're looking in, you know, perhaps 17% of our brain when there's 83% of our brain that's actually storing the information. So it's like having a 10-drawer filing cabinet that's loaded up with information, and you're only searching for this information in the top 2 drawers. And there's another 8 drawers of information that is everything that you need, but you just haven't opened up those doors yet. And the reason that, you know, this is called our unconscious incompetence, we don't know that we don't know. So that's why we need to start looking outside of ourselves to be able to find answers. And we need to find somebody who's actually traveled this path and has been on the journey, that's actually, you know, gone and done the work and, you know, perhaps spent the thousands of dollars in looking for these answers, read those, you know, hundreds of hours of books and, you know, listened to all those audios and applied all of this and has actually got results that can actually fast track. Because if we stay searching in that 17% for the answers that we're looking for, we will go crazy. Because the answers are not there. You know, it's about finding the tools and resources and support to be able to look in the right drawers of the filing cabinet. Now, what I want to share with you is I guess, you know, three of the top three reasons why people stay stuck. And this is information that, you know, really, really super successful people. Now, I have come amazingly successful people in my career. You know, some of my clients, you know, I have one client who's a CEO of an organization, and she is just an amazing woman, and I really, really enjoy working with her. But she goes through this process as well. And, you know, the most awesome people who I love working with the most are all on the same path. So this is human behavior stuff that applies to everybody. So in terms of, I guess, the top three challenges, these challenges are moving through our layers of purpose, and we've completed one layer of purpose and we're moving into new levels. So we're jumping out of the known and into the unknown. And I want to call these upper limit problems. And upper limit problems are basically where we are blocking ourselves from moving to the next limit, to the next level. So we have like a glass ceiling, if you like, where we think that we can't rise above a certain level, yet energetically our resonance is ready to move to a higher level, but you know, we block ourselves and we get in our own way. So you know, some of these reasons are things like, you know, the fundamental belief that pretty much every human being has is that we're not good enough, you know, on some level. And pretty much every person has that belief. You know, it's a really, really common belief. We all feel on some level that, you know, we don't deserve to be successful. The second one is that, you know, if I am successful, you know, I'll be leaving people behind, and particularly people that have supported me along my way. You know, there's a fear of outshining others. So, you know, who am I to be the star? The next one is something has to give. I can't have it all. And if I'm successful in one field, I'll be losing in the other field. So this is one that I see very much, particularly for women that feel like it's almost a Sophie's choice. And Sophie's choice means, you know, neither option is a great option. If I give over here, I'm going to lose there. If I give there, I'm going to lose there. So it sets us up in a where we feel like we can't win either way. The imposter is a really, really common one as well. And you know, where we feel like we're actually making it. And the last one is scared of being rejected. And, you know, that fear of putting ourselves out there and then, you know, having judgment from others to say that, you know, we're not good enough. And so that's, I guess, the first trap is those common upper limit beliefs. The second one is about, you know, how we energetically create. So from a creation perspective, the place that we want to get to is where our bucket is overflowing, and our bucket represents, you know, money, it represents love, it represents well-being, it represents, you know, all of the good things that we want in our lives. So we want to be in this experience where we have more than enough of what it is that we want most. But the challenge is that when we decide that we want to create, it is generally dry. And, you know, so the truth is, when is it that we decide that we want to create more money? When we're broke. When is it that we decide that we want to find somebody to love us? When we feel incredibly alone. when is it that we decide that we want to have a healthy, amazing, beautiful body that's sexy and gorgeous and yummy? We decide that when we're fat and overweight and feeling really ugly. So, you know, when we have this in terms of our thinking, we're actually creating lack. And so what that tends to do is it tends to amplify the feeling of lack. And, you know, it also places, you know, the other common thing that creates that sense of lack is setting ourselves up for failure in terms of creating goals that are so far out into the future that we never actually achieve them. So, you know, we create these stretch goals for ourselves, which is, you know, and I'm all about stretching, but we don't allow ourselves to feel successful until such time as we get to that destination. And when we have that mindset where we're never actually there, it's a constant sense of lack. And that sense of lack, because we're not there yet, will fry our brain and will actually create a place that keeps us more and more and more stuck. Because, you know, the more we sit in an energy of lack, the more lack that tends to show up. Because, you know, it's not about our words that are creating it. It's about our thoughts and feelings. And, you know, one of the things that I've been able to do on my journey, and I'll share a little more about some of the achievements that I've had in the last 12 months, but I've started to connect on a much more spiritual level, where I actually am now channeling messages from Spirit each morning. And, you know, I sit and I do a process called automatic writing, which means that I hear this message in my mind and I write it down with my eyes closed, and then actually, you know, transcribe that afterwards. And I, you know, keeping them all together, eventually I might make a book out of it, I'm not sure. But for those of you who are in my Facebook group, in the Soul Connection Tribe, I often post some in there. If you're not in Facebook or not on my Soul Connection Tribe, but you'd like to see some of these messages, you know, please let me know and I can get some to you. But one of the most recent ones that I channeled, which was actually just a day or so ago, was talking about how the law of attraction and spirit doesn't hear words. They don't talk in the language of words. They talk in the language of feelings. So it's our feeling and our energy that's attached to a certain outcome that is actually what it is that we're sending out and creating. So the universe, or God, or whatever you want to call it that feels right for you, doesn't have judgment in terms of what's good and what's bad. It just matches whatever we're sending out with the experience that turns up. So, you know, if we are sending out an energy of fear and lack will keep coming back to us. If we're sending out a message of love and abundance, you know, we will attract more things that make us feel loving and abundant. So it's one of those paradoxes that we really need to be able to master, how we're thinking and feeling, because it's not about our words, it's about our energy and the way that we're showing up that actually creates what it is that shows up in our life. So that's I guess, you know, the second big trap. So the first trap is upper limits, our thinking that actually blocks us from moving forward. And the second trap is about trying to create from a place of lack. The third block that I see for people is that, you know, we're not aligned and we're not congruent with what it is that we want most. We don't have clarity around, you know, what it is that we actually want to create. So we tend to have this misaligned, misshapen model, which is where our energy's got to flow through. So if you think about this like a hose, and, you know, you've got one hose that's nice and straight and clean, and the other hose has got all these kinks in it, and the water's got to find its way through all the kinks to be able to get to the other end. That's what it means to be out of alignment. And out of alignment, examples of out of alignment are things like, you know, we feel that our Our family is most important to us, yet we're doing a job that takes us away from our family and fills us up with, you know, the guilt from being the absent parent, for not being around. So, you know, that's an example of being out of alignment. And that what that means is our energy has to work much harder to be able to create, because of these kinks in the hose that are stopping the flow from going through. So, you know, we need to be able to find ways of, you know, how our being and showing up, and how I guess our life is designed. You know, are we living in accordance with our values? Are we, you know, do we have a clear vision? Do we have a purpose? Do we know why we're doing what we're doing? Because when we get all of that stuff lined up and we've got that certainty, you know, we can actually, you know, start to create something a lot more powerful. And, you know, the way that we create the good stuff, and that we create fast, and that things can actually show up that feel easy and effortless and graceful, is by shifting our emotional state. So, you know, it's a paradox. You know, when we're stuck in those dark places, you know, when we're feeling depressed or powerless, or, you know, fearful, or, you know, unworthy, we will continue to get that lack and that resistance, where things will feel difficult. But, you know, as we start to work on ourselves, and we start to be able to shift our emotional state up into things like trust and optimism, and, you know, feeling hopeful, and, you know, moving into some of these energies, you know, we shift our energy emotionally, we vibrate at a higher level, because each of these vibrations can actually be measured on a scale of 0 to 1,000. So, you know, these low level energies sort of sit at, you know, perhaps sub 200, whereas the higher ones are sort of, you know, 700 and above is typically where you start to actually create from, fast and powerfully and effectively. So the better you feel, the more you're going to get the good stuff that starts to show up. And, you know, it's about being able to, you know, plant the seed and allow it to grow, so that you can get that momentum and that takeoff. So, you know, I guess in terms of takeoff, what I'd like to do is share a little about, you know, what's happened for me personally in the last, you know, 12 months or 18 months since I chose to leave my corporate career, feeling very, very burned out. You know, I've been pretty blessed. So, you know, I've done a lot of travel. I've traveled to the USA twice. I've visited LA, I've been to New York, I've been to Las Vegas. I took my daughter over, we went to Disneyland. We stayed in Times Square in New York. And so, you know, had a great time in the US. I've been fortunate enough to have studied with some of the world's leading mentors. And, you know, I have use this time to learn and to embrace this journey, and to prepare myself for where I see myself moving in the future. You know, I've done a lot of work in terms of the personal development, the life mastery. I've really committed to developing my spiritual connection and my faith. And, you know, that's a work in progress. I think it will always be a work in progress. But, you know, finding that connection, you know, understanding about business. Now, I thought I knew about business from a business banking background. I was sitting on the financial side of businesses for many, many, many years. But owning and running your own business has certainly given me a lot of learnings as well. You know, I've been fortunate enough to have been able to support some amazing people in the last 18 months as well. And I'm so, so proud of some of the results that I've seen some of my beautiful clients step into. You know, 3 marriage proposals this year. And one of my amazing clients, who I love to death, is now pregnant with her first child. And she was a lady who, you know, was 5 years single and was terrified of commitment and thought that she was going to be an old maid and left on the shelf. So, you know, some of those things just light up my heart with joy. You know, I've been able to take my daughter to school and be present in her life, that I felt like I missed in those years when I was so busy in my corporate life. You know, I've got now an online presence and community. There's around about 10,000 people within my reach through my Facebook community alone. You know, I've got the Soul Connection tribe, so we've got around about 1,000 people in that tribe, which is basically a community for people who embrace the spiritual concepts in life, and, you know, love and authenticity and living on purpose. You know, I've been to Bali twice, and actually I'm going a third time on Sunday. So 3 times in 18 months. And I'm now integrating those Bali trips. I take people with me and I show them the experience in terms of that body, mind and spirit, and help them to be able to really rebalance through that self-love and letting go of the stuff that doesn't serve us to get back to that core piece of love. You know, I've written up my first book, so I'm now an author. I've been an advisor on a gender diversity panel, which was, you know, certainly a great honor to be on, and, you know, spoken at lots and lots of events around masculine and feminine dynamics, and, you know, moving into the space of women in leadership mentoring, which is something that's really, you know, inspiring me a lot, to be able to support executive women to become more successful. Life's certainly been an incredible ride and a wonderful journey. And, you know, some people say to me, "You are so lucky." And I say, yeah, I am lucky. But I actually see myself as being blessed, and I appreciate the thousands of choices that have been made to take me exactly to where I am right now. And things don't happen by accident. It's all by choice. So, you know, the things that I've had to learn and implement into my life have been forgiveness. You know, there was a lot of stuff that I needed to forgive. And you start off thinking it's all about forgiving everyone else. But the truth is that forgiveness is about forgiving ourselves. And that's where the ultimate gift of forgiveness is in releasing our own self-judgment and our own guilt and shame for the things that we think we should have done or could have done, but we haven't. So, you know, being able to understand that, you know, we've created this story, which is where we feel, and every single person that I coach has got one of these stories. You know, we all have them. This is what we do as human beings. This is our makeup. You know, we create this story or a series of scary stories about, you know, feeling, you know, that we're not worthy on some level. So, you know, to be able to clean up those stories, we need to be able to start with forgiveness and forgiving ourselves. We need to be able to see that everything that we've experienced in our journey is actually serving us. So, you know, just as on that superhero's journey, you know, each of these things that are bad are actually good on some level. We just perhaps need to do the work to be able to see the equilibrium and see how they've actually served us. So, you know, if you think back to, you know, I think it was, I forget the year, 1996, I think, off the top of my head, Martin Bryant went nuts in Port Arthur. And as a result, you know, he got a gun and he shot 35 people. Now, that's pretty horrendous that 35 people died, you know, from this shooting spree in Australia. But as a result of that, John Howard at the time introduced the gun laws that we have today. And those gun laws are some of the strictest gun laws in the world. And as a result of that, you know, from 1996 until now, how many lives have been saved because of that one incident? And, you know, how lucky are we now to live in a country that has such strict gun laws where we can feel safe? You know, if you look at the states and look at, you know, I guess their gun policies, you know, there's so many deaths from people shooting, and we don't have that anymore because of that one incident. You know, if you look at, you know, divorce, separation, ending of a relationship, you know, we judge that as being bad. Is that bad? I don't know. You know, I think there's good and there's bad. I don't think we should ever judge any incident as being solely bad or solely good, because I think it's when we have the power to be able to see both sides, and we can actually see that everything in life is actually, you know, supporting and challenging us, and neutralize our judgment against it as being good or bad, where we can actually return to love. And that's our neutral position, is love. And that's where we can create from. So, you know, whilst, you know, I felt like, you know, I lost a lot when I walked away from my corporate job, you know, when I look back now, I can see how much I've gained. You know, my life has been so rich and blessed in what I've been able to experience. And, you know, there's always two sides. And it's ultimately about, you know, being able to understand that, you know, everything that costs us is also benefiting us. But there's also going to be some consequences. So, you know, there's nothing is ever right or wrong. It's just that each behavior is going to create consequences. So, you know, leaving a secure corporate role, you know, had a cost. It also has some benefits, but there would be some consequences that, you know, we need to be able to balance up. And, you know, when we look at, you know, the challenges and the pain that we go through when we do feel out of alignment, or we feel, you know, stressed or burned out, you know, these are all here to teach us. So, you know, some of the benefits are things like it shows us where we're not living according to our values. You know, it'll give us a desire to move past the superficial and to actually go deeper within, to be able to connect with ourselves and look for answers. And, you know, very often it's not about buying more stuff, living in a bigger house, driving a nicer car, going on more holidays, you know, having, you know, trendier outfits, or, you know, the right labeled clothes. It's not about more stuff. It's about actually peeling away all that stuff and getting back to the core. And that's what pain helps us to do. It helps us to let go of what's not important. And, you know, very often it makes us have a look in the mirror and to start to put some practices in place that are going to become more effective in building sustainability. You know, sustainability in ways of thinking, feeling, and being, because we realize that we can't keep doing the same stuff that we used to do and expect a different result. You know, so for me, after 4 career burnouts, from push to always be the highest performer, and, you know, at a cost, I realized that I needed to start a new journey and make some new choices. You know, it helps us to you know, I guess certainly for a lot of my clients, to build that spiritual connection and that sense of faith, and to become clearer and more purposeful about what it is that we truly want most. And, you know, then the ultimate, I guess, of where we get to when we get through all this is that we need to be the custodian of this wisdom, and we need to pay it forward and help others so that they don't have to go through what we've gone through. So, you know, it's one of the first things that we need to work through is self-love, radical self-love. Because when we have self-judgment, which is guilt and shame, it's going to take away our ability to be able to receive what we want most. So, you know, finding ways to be able to step into loving ourselves unconditionally and completely for who we are, where we've been, and what we still have, you know, is really the first start in being able to find our power, is to fall in love with ourselves and release that judgment. Because, you know, as I said earlier, we either create from lack or we create from love. And when we fall in love with our life and our experiences, and we can bless our pain and be thankful for everything that's taken us to this place, we actually create from a place of a bucket overflowing, as opposed to a bucket that's dry and empty. The single most powerful technique that I use and that my clients use is creating a powerful vision. Now, this is a really, really simple exercise, and I guarantee that if every one of you that's on the line tonight started doing this and implemented it daily for at least 21 days, you would experience a very, very fast shift in your energy, and you would start to notice things turning up. So, this is about writing a vision of what it is that you want most in your life. And the way that I start this off is, I am so happy and grateful now that I am blah, blah, blah. And we tell a story. So our brains are always creating, and, our brains are creating our experience through the maps that we load into our brain. Now, if we want to create something new in the future, but we don't have any maps, our brain, it's like a GPS unit that's, you're driving around and you've got maps that are 20 years old and you're trying to go to a new subdivision. It can't find its way there. So you'll get frustrated because you're driving around and around in circles, and never actually reaching that destination. So, we need to load maps and reference points. And the way that our brain works and creates is, again, not in words, but in feeling. So, it's the energy that we associate with what we're writing down. So if you're going to create a wish list and you're just in your head, it's unlikely you're going to get it, because it's not created with feeling and energy. The way that we create and attract through deliberate creation is actually through feeling, and through writing and feeling and imagining that you had all of those things that you want most. What would you be seeing, smelling, tasting, feeling? What would people be saying? How would you embody all of those into your body and take it all the way through? And that's how we start to create powerful experiences that are within our body, which actually projects that energy out, that starts to create. Because it's ultimately, it's about the clarity that we have, plus the certainty that it's out there waiting for us to claim it. Plus the action that we take, got to take some action, and minus the resistance. And that is the creation formula. It's only the resistance which is our fears and our blocks and our self-judgment and our worthiness and our inability to forgive, that actually blocks the flow. And when we block the flow, we become ripe and rotting. When we keep aligning and keep focused on that vision, we become green and growing. Now, for all the work that I've done on my journey, and all of the hundreds and perhaps thousands of people that I've coached over the years, what I know is that there is no magic pill. So if anybody tells you that there's a magic pill, by all means try it. But in my experience, I've certainly not seen one. The only way that results come is from doing the work. And there's a system that needs to be followed to be able to get the results. So it's just like, if you, want to get fit, and you want to watch a stack of workout videos, or you want to read a great book on the workout, or you want to hear somebody tell you all about their workout, it's not going to actually do anything for you in terms of your fitness unless you're actually in there doing the work and pushing through resistance points to actually move through the cycle. And the same thing happens in terms of our personal development and our growth. So, this is a system that I use. This is a system that my clients use. And this is a system that actually creates results when we follow it and we stick to this model. So step one is about your vision, getting clear about what you really, really want. So, making a really compelling and magnetic vision that actually draws it into your experience. Step two is understand your story. Deep dive into your truth. What's your bullshit that you've decided to be true that's sitting in there? Because, here's the deal. You can't move forward on something that you don't acknowledge. So, we've got to join the dots and work out what story and what programming you've been running on up until now that's actually giving you the results that's keeping you where you are. And then we need to challenge that story and actually decide which pieces of that story we want to keep on as our truth and which pieces we're actually happy to let go and perhaps write some new chapters that might be more effective and more powerful in terms of supporting your journey. Step 3 is emotional momentum, and that is about the self-love, the forgiveness, and you know, putting yourself back in a state of love. So, you know, if you're in that state of lack, you're not going to get what it is that you want. You know, it's just not going to happen. So, you know, we've got to shift the emotional state to return to a place of love within. The next step 4 is about clearing the way, letting go of resistance, making the space, creating certainty, and all of that stuff, getting out of our own way so that we can actually start to move into expanding the new, learning new skills, acting in different ways, getting ready to receive. Taking action. As I said, nothing happens if you don't take action. You know, you can decide that you want an amazing swimming pool in your backyard, but until somebody goes out and starts digging the hole, it's unlikely that you're ever going to get it. So, you know, we need to take the actions. And then at the end, it's a process of, you know, I call it reflect, refine, and re-engage, which is basically, you know, how is this working? You know, is it creating the result that I wanted? You know, is this still what I want? And basically looking at what we're doing, how it's working, what are we learning from it, and how can we keep doing it even better? And that model, seriously, it just rocks it. And, you know, the system does create results. You know, if you want to do this stuff, you got to be prepared to be vulnerable. And, you know, we've been taught that vulnerability is a weakness, but I want to tell you that vulnerability and owning your story, owning your stuff, is the most powerful thing that you can do. And you will become stronger. And this is where you get your superpowers from, is being able to own your fear and your guilt and your shame, and being able to say, this is how I feel. Because once we own it, it actually is like turning on the light, where the darkness no longer exists, you know, or the power of the darkness is certainly diminished. And it's when we can step into that vulnerability space that we actually become strong. You know, it's about also, you know, looking at ourselves and asking ourselves, you know, are we taking personal responsibility? You know, are we backing ourselves to be able to honor and respect ourselves, to, you know, to step up and know that we are creating our journey, and every step of the way we are living an experience that we have consciously or unconsciously chosen to create. So, you know, there's times when we're going to feel like we're the victim. There's times when we're the ones that are rescuing other people, and there's times when we feel like we're the bad person. We all play those roles, but, you know, as we become more conscious and more aware, the time that we spend in each of those positions needs to be less, because none of those positions are going to serve us. The only way that we're going to create is by backing ourselves and stepping up to be able to take responsibility for knowing that everything that we have in our life on some level we've created. You know, the 5 C's, we need to get clear about what it is that we want. We need to find the courage to be able to step forward and push through those resistance points, to be able to, you know, to step further. Capability, we need to become good at what we do. So, you know, if we don't understand something, we need to learn it. If we are not yet good at something that we want to become good at it, you know, if we've failed at, you know, the last 3 relationships, well, maybe we need to learn some new stuff. You know, there's no use, you know, getting older if you don't get any wiser. You know, go out and learn. You know, confidence comes after capability, because often we don't feel confident until we've actually done the thing that we want to do. So you've got to act without confidence and do it before you're ready to be able to actually feel confident. And then, you know, ultimately it's about connection to ourselves personally, first of all, so that we can understand, you know, wipe away the fog, get away all the the murky stuff that sits around us and actually get to our core truth about who we are, what's most important, and, you know, what is the life that we choose to live. Now, and I guess we also need to make some choices in terms of where do we invest. Now, you know, there's lots of different ways that we're all spending our time and money and energy every day, and we are always assessing how we choose to invest the resources that we have within us. So my question to you would be, what is it that's most valuable? The gold bars or wisdom? And, you know, where do we choose to spend our time and money and energy on things that are external to us or things that are internal to us? We can choose both, and neither one is right or wrong, but just understanding that whichever way we're placing the importance is where we're choosing to create from. So, you know, one of the things that I've done, you know, over the last year has spent an incredible amount of money in my own education. And, you know, I, you know, would have to say that, you know, it's been a massive investment for me. But I've chosen to fill myself up on the inside and to be able to go down that path, to be able to become richer on the inside, because the investment that I make in myself will repay me many times over, rather than just spending that money on stuff and things. You know, because in life we all have choices. Every day we're making choices, and, you know, it's ultimately, it's about, you know, what choice is going to serve us best to be able to take us to a place where we feel powerful and confident, and capable of creating the life that we want most. And, you know, being a superhero is a choice. Being a victim is a choice. Being powerless is a choice. And, you know, sometimes we just have to make that choice before we feel confident and find that superhero that's within us all, because we all have the capability. And, you know, right now the world needs superheroes. The world needs leaders, because, you know, there's times that are coming up right now where people are looking for somebody who is authentic, who is non-judgmental, and who has walked this path that can actually put their hand out and help others. And as we allow ourselves to step into our own power, we're subconsciously sending out a message to those around us that it's safe for them to be able to step into their power as well. So, you know, there's a ripple effect from each of us being the leader and allowing ourselves to choose to be that superhero. And, you know, as I said, it's ultimately, it's about, you know, not just knowing this information, because information alone will never actually help us. It's called shelf-help. Shelf-help is where we buy books and we put them on the shelf, and they don't help us at all, because, you know, we haven't applied any of the information. So, you know, you guys here tonight, as I said, you're 3% of the population. You are already, by virtue of the fact that you're here, your consciousness has brought you here to this session. We're talking about this type of content. You are already more skilled and more capable than 97% of the population in terms of what you already know within you and what you're already capable of being able to create. So, you know, what I know for sure is that each of you, you know, can probably look back in a year's time and go, wow, look at where I've come from and where I am now. You know, and you can do that hero's journey on your own. You know, you don't need support. But what I'm going to tell you is that it does take longer when you're on your own. The way to fast track it is to move out of the go-kart and into the Ferrari. And you know, and moving into the Ferrari is getting somebody who has been there before you, has walked the path, and who has, you know, gone through this, that can actually support you through those ebbs and flows to be able to get you to the other side. Now, I say this, obviously, you know, I'm a coach, and, you know, I'd love to work with you if it feels like it might be right for you. If I'm not the right fit with you, I would still encourage you to find a mentor or find somebody to support you on this journey, because, you know, we think that success looks like one straight trajectory. The truth is that it's not. Success is all over the shop, and there are days when you're up, there's days when you're down, there's days when you take 3 steps backwards, there's times when you take 5 steps forwards, but it's an up and down journey. And, you know, those are the times that, you know, when we're moving through those upper limits and we're creating new experiences, that we actually need that ongoing support and guidance, and somebody who can help push us through our own resistance and barriers and fears to be able to keep going and get to that other side. Because, as I said, you know, what I find is that, you know, pretty much most of my clients have already gone 2/3 of the way around the journey. They've already gone, you know, quite a long way, but they just don't realize, you know, the last remaining few steps to be able to get them back to the end point. So, you know, and that's a painful place to be if you get 2/3 of the way around and you never actually take those last few steps. So, you know, ultimately, I guess, you know, we all have choice. We all have choice as terms of, you know, how we're going to navigate our journey forward. You know, how we're going to choose to go, you know, ahead. You know, are we going to go in the go-kart? Are we going to go in the Ferrari? Are we going to stay where we are and not move for a while? You know, it's ultimately, everybody has the power to be able to make the choice that supports them. But we also, with power comes responsibility. And responsibility is about owning that we create our reality. So, for those of you who feel like, you know, the content tonight has resonated with you, I can see that, you know, you're still on the line here with me tonight. So, you know, my guess is that you feel like some of this stuff makes sense. And what I want to do is invite you to consider working with me further. And working with me further means what we're going to do is complete that cycle. You know, I'm going to give you the benefit of, you know, the hundreds of thousands of dollars that I've spent personally, and the pain and the time and the energy and the hundreds and thousands of hours that I've spent, you know, learning this content, and my own personal journey, and the hundreds of clients that I've also coached, to be able to fast track your progress and speed things up. So you can wait a year, that's cool, and do it on your own, or you can choose to invest in yourself and work with me, and we'll get things moving a lot faster, you know, very quickly. And ultimately, there's a choice in terms of, you know, what is the most expensive? What's the lost opportunity of not actually stepping up and backing yourself? So, you know, in my program, the things that we work through together is getting to peace with your past. You know, I'm very much about total forgiveness and being able to love and appreciate and really understand how we've created our story, and to love our story so much that we feel so full and happy and joyful that we can actually go and create more of what's important. We've got to become better, not bitter. We're going to create a compelling and magnetic plan for your next steps. So, you know, the most amazing vision. And what I will do is teach you in a lot more detail in terms of how to have that single amazing vision that will really drive the results for you. I'm going to help you to get in touch with your truth and use some of the spiritual wisdom that I've been able to step into, particularly through my own connection now with channeling, and, you know, my wisdom that I learned from my multiple trips to Bali, where I study with a priest, and we do purification work. which is about releasing all of the things that no longer serve us and getting back in touch with bringing those blessings through us. I'm going to help you with creating your truth and getting clear about what's most important. So ultimately, that's what we do when we work together as a coach and a client. Now, if this resonates with you and you would like to explore this, I invite you to register for a strategy session. Now, what I'm going to say to you is that there may or may not be a fit, and I totally appreciate that some people are the right fit for me and my skills, and some people are not. So the only way that we know that is by spending some time together to understand what's most important to you and to see if what I'm offering is going to work for you and whether we really can work together to be able to get results. Because I need to make sure that we're both on the same page in terms of commitment and being ready to actually go out and create that. So, tonight, what I'd like to do is, as we move towards the end of tonight's session, is just to invite you, if you'd like to explore this a little further, to jump onto my website at shineexecutive.com.au/discovery session and pop your details in there. And if you can do it tonight, I can probably make some time tomorrow, but I am flying out to Bali on Saturday for a week. So, the sooner we can get you get you in, the sooner we can start to talk about whether we can, create some amazing movement for you or not. But look, as we move towards a close, I will be taking questions in a moment. So if you want to type in any questions into the chat box right now, we will cover those off shortly. Thank you for joining us tonight. I hope that you've all taken away some notes and some thoughts and some gems that you can go out and apply straight away to be able to take that personal responsibility for the journey that you are creating every single day. And with my I guess with my heart open, I want to genuinely send you love and send you my absolute best wishes for the most blessings and the most abundance and love that's possible for you. I know that there's systems and processes and models that can help you to experience that a lot faster and on a much higher intensity. And I would certainly love to support you in that space, if that feels right for you. So I'll just check in now and see if we've got any questions. And oh, some nice ones. Purification works. Awesome. Want to get there? Yes. Absolutely. On the right track to success. Yeah, fantastic. Top 3%. Yeah. No, it looks like we're all good. I can't see any questions. Oh gosh, reading through all of these. Getting page not found when I type that in my browser. Oh gosh. Don't know why that's not working. Send me a Facebook message. And yeah, so Janet's saying Google Shine Executive and then go to Discovery Session, or go to the mentoring on Shine Executive. We'll be able to work on that. Sandy's asked a question: did you have one-on-one mentoring sessions with famous people in the world, or did you do programs with them? I'm part of an international mentoring group, which is all about life excellence, and I've had one-on-ones and group work. And there's around about 80 people in the world that are in this group, and it's an amazing environment. So I've done that. Janet, wish I was going to Bali. I wish you were coming too, Janet. Can't get to the page, but not the Discovery Session. Okay, so the on the page, it's on my website, shineexecutive.com.au. There's a section there called Executive Mentoring. That there's a link on the bottom that says Discovery Session. So hopefully that'll get there. If not, just send me a private message and we'll talk. Law of attraction, see, feel, emotion. Yep, give back. So happy and grateful based on, oh, good question. So when we're journaling, we journal, I am so happy and grateful now that. What we're doing is using our imagination to create to write about what it is that we want to create. So we're writing about something that's in the future that hasn't yet happened, because our brain works off of imagination and memories. So so what that means is if we don't have memories in the past of what we want, we have to create new imaginations to be able to load those maps. So it's journaling about something in the future. Truth equals bullshit. Yep, love it. Too true. Yeah, awesome. So I think that's all the questions. Thank you everybody for joining in. And if there's, is my program face-to-face or remote? Both, Stone. So it is face-to-face and remote. So we have both. And the purpose of the discovery session is really just to talk about locations and to see what's the best offering in terms of everybody's needs. So blah, blah, blah. Looks like I think I've got all the questions. Spirit's playing. Oh gosh, so much feedback here. This is beautiful. Thanks for Sandy. Enjoy Bali. Yep, awesome. No, I think I've got all the questions done now. So thank you everybody for joining. You will also receive the recording of this. So if you think of anything else that I can help you with, please just drop me a line. Love to hear from you, and love you to share any aha moments. Thanks, guys. Have an awesome night. Bye-bye now, with love and blessings. Good night.